Hello, Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon here on YouTube, and then I posted up to Facebook, title of the same name. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. If you feel you need a therapist, please go to Google, type in therapy, your city, Psychology Today will pop up, click on that, and it will have qualified therapists in your area. Also, the views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other goddamn therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. Okay, so bunches of books I wanted to tell you about. If you are going through a divorce, Splitting by Randy Krieger and Bill Eddy. Phenomenal. Read it. You're going to need it. If you're going through a divorce, hello, India. If you're going through a divorce with somebody who is disordered, this book is going to be a godsend because it's going to basically tell you what to expect and to stop expecting them to behave in any way, shape, or form that resembles, normalcy. So Splitting by Randy Krieger and Bill Eddy. Really, 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 really good book. Read it if you are going through a divorce or thinking of going through a divorce. So this is your book. Also, I wanted to remind you, Susanna Quintana has You Are Still That Girl out on hard copy now, I believe. So You're Still That Girl. Get over your abusive ex for good. She's a buddy of mine. She's fantastic. If you are outside of Arizona, this is your girl. She's a life counselor, life coach. She's a narcissistic survivor. She is an expert on how to deal with these jackwagons when you are divorcing them. So she is your girl. SusannaQuintana.com. Also get her book. Really good book. Also, Shahida Arabi's book. I know, I was like, and this book, and that book, but I like them. So Healing the Adult Children of Narcissists by Shahida Arabi. And of course, my books. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him cha-cha. And What's Wrong with Your Dad, both available on Amazon and also on Audible. So there that is. And I believe Shahida has got a new book coming out pretty soon. So I'm excited about that. She's like, yeah, I'm going to send you a copy. I'm like, sweet. So there is that. Okay. So happy Mother's Day to all of us survivors that are moms. And remember, just because it's Mother's Day does not mean you have to be in contact with anybody you don't want to. So, just because it's Mother's Day or Father's Day in a month or so, you don't have to be in contact with people you do not want to. It's no obligation. Remember, fear, obligation, or guilt, fog. You do not need to be in contact with anybody that engenders those feelings, fear, obligation, or guilt. Okay, so, excuse me, my allergies are just going crazy, go nuts today. Yay, Arizona. Hang on. Okay, so what I wanted to do is continue the conversation that we started last week about how to find yourself. Who are you? So when we leave an abusive relationship, whether it is a familial abusive relationship, mom, dad, grandparents, caregivers, whatever, or whether it's a friendship or whether it's a romantic relationship or a boss or, anything like that, we tend to come out of it going, who am I? What do I like? What do I want? What do I need? And one person sent in a question that I thought was really relevant. They're like, okay, well, my family was dysfunctional. And then I got involved with, romantic partners that were dysfunctional as well. I don't think I've ever known who the authentic me is. How the hell do I start finding the authentic me? So this is why I did last week's, and this is why I'm doing this week. So if you missed last week's, go back and watch it. I think it was called Meeting Yourself maybe for the first time. That's the title of last week's. But so I wanted to continue. It's like ways to find yourself, steps you can actually take to either finding yourself or finding yourself. So sometimes it's not like, oh my gosh, we've been raised by one and then we've had a series of bad relationships, or we've been in a really long-term abusive, romantic relationship. Sometimes it's, we knew who we were before we got into the bad relationship and then we've lost who we are. So it's a matter of getting back to ourselves. So either meeting ourselves for the first time or finding ourselves, again after abuse. So I wanted to continue that list that I was talking about. So mentoring, okay? You want to find a mentor. You want to find a role model. I've talked about this multiple times. If you did not have a role model, if there was not one around you, then you've got to find one in fiction. Find one in literature. Somebody was saying that they really liked The Last Airbender. One of the characters in there was a very wise, grandfatherly kind of character. I haven't watched it. I have no idea. I haven't read it. I don't know. But they were like, that was really helpful. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what you want to do is you want to find characters or people in real life that have attributes that you like and kind of like, oh, I like the way that they're compassionate. So for example, for me, when I was going through my master's program, I was like, what kind of counselor do I be? How do I want to be? And I had three really great mentors there. John Nixon was one. And I love him because he's, very logical and he's like, logic, science, that kind of thing. So he was a great role model. The other one I had is Tony Flota, and I loved him too because he swore like a sailor. Gosh, wonder why I liked him so much. So, and he was like, be authentic, be your real self. Don't try to be this, fake, no emotion, no, blank screen therapist if that's not who you are. And I was like, I love you, Tony. You're awesome. So, there was that. And then also prior to even getting into the program, I remember watching Sybil, the old movie with Joanne Woodward, and I loved her in that movie. I loved how compassionate she was, and I loved how kind she was, and I loved how she just had this wonderful sense of not mothering, well, kind of mothering, but it was like just kind and compassionate and caring. Like you really felt like she really gives a fuck about this kid, and I really liked that. So that's, you find mentors either in reality or in fictional characters that you can kind of go, yes, I like that. That's what I want to kind of gear myself towards. That's how I want to be. But first of all, you got to figure out, what do you want? How do you know what you want? So that means having to do a lot of either writing it out, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? What do I want? What are my wants? What are my needs? That kind of thing. The narcissist is really great about screaming, what about my wants? What about my needs? Blah, blah, blah. I've actually heard them say that. Holy shit. So do you see where I'm going with that? So, but you need to be able to do that for you. You need to be able to go, what are my wants? What do I want? What makes me happy? And what's funny is when we start even thinking about that, we get this ton of guilt. Oh my gosh, no, I can't do that for me. No, I can't go pursue a career that I've wanted because it wasn't okay, or it's not okay for me to do self-care, or, get a massage, or, whatever it was that the family or the abuser was telling you, no, 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 no. And so oftentimes what abusers do to us is they make us bad and wrong anytime we try to become our authentic self or resurface, the authentic self resurfaces. The other thing that I've seen abusers do is that they will literally march in and take over whatever hobby you had. So if you, like I said, I think I've used this example before. If you were a painter, suddenly they take up painting and now it's a competition. And then you start losing joy. You don't enjoy it anymore. Or you're a singer and they start singing and they're in competition with you. It's always a competition. It's always, well, I do it better. That's really literally what they do. It's, I do it better, so you shouldn't even do it. And so they take away our hobbies, our loves, our joys. And this happens in families of origin. This happens in romantic relationships. So you got to get back to finding what you loved. What did you used to like to do when you were a little kid? There had to have been something, find it. Or if there's no memory of doing anything fun, because in some really dysfunctional families of origin, that's the case. There was no fun there. So you start allowing yourself. So when you're doing the mirror work, hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to explore and figure out what you like. It's okay. And then walk out. So you give yourself permission, because there's this huge amount of non-permission. Does that make sense? So mentors are huge. Find people that resonate, that you're like, I like the way they do that. I want to be able to do that. That would be great. Now that's different than marching in and taking something over from someone. You just kind of go, ooh, I like those qualities. I like this. I think I'm going to start incorporating them into my own life. Whereas abusers literally try to become the other person and take over all the hobbies and, everything. And it's a competition. So how to find yourself. So in the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor, at one point she asks, is there family members that you can talk to? And there may not be, because remember, if the whole family is completely dysfunctional and you don't want to be talking to them. But if there are trusted, keyword, trusted family members or trusted friends that remember you when you were little sometimes that's a good way to start talking. Who was I? How was I? What did I like when I was 6? What did I like when I was 3? What did I like? That kind of thing. So if you can talk to trusted family members, trusted friends, that kind of helps you remember. Because a lot of us, guys, I'm not even kidding you. So part of PTSD, right? Just general PTSD, but in particular CPTSD, is a loss of memory. We don't remember our childhoods a lot of times. Why? Because they were traumatic, and our brain just kind of goes, not going there. Thanks for playing. Peace out, right? So it's important to start remembering. And again, where I think people get foobarred in their head is the inner child starts screaming, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I don't want to have to live through that again. I don't want to have to do that again. You have to comfort that inner child and go, little one, you've already survived. You made it. You won. You're an adult. You did it. Good job. You're not in danger. It's just a memory. Nothing more. Nothing more. It's a thought. It's a thought. Nothing more. But remember, our amygdala is stupid, and it cannot tell the difference between thought, remembering, right, and the event actually happening. It feels like here now, here now, here now, here now. That's trauma. So that's why it's a really great idea. Get with a good trauma therapist. So like EMDR, EFT, CBT, DBT, somebody who knows their shit, do it. It's going to help. Okay, so trusted family or friends that can help you reflect back and maybe, show you something that you've forgotten about yourself and remind you of who you really are. So think about it. How many times have our abusers put us down, name called, been nasty, told us who we were, and they're talking about themselves, and yet we believed them. So it's really important to get back to who are you really? Not based off of the abuser, but who are you really? Trust your gut. And you start with simple things that you already know the answer to. So remember, the head and the heart tell stories, the gut does not. So when you're starting to learn to trust your gut, you use little things that you already know the answer to. So like for me, I hate peanut butter. I don't know why. I love Reese's peanut butter cups, but I hate peanut butter. I think it's the texture. It's just gross. Anyway, and if you like peanut butter, that's okay. I just don't. So I asked my gut, yes or no, do I like peanut butter? And it's literally like a kind of reaction. But then I go, okay, do I like Reese's peanut butter cups? Oh, yes. Yes, I do. And I can feel the difference between those two answers. So you start by asking your gut questions that you already know and notice how that feels. And then you expand that to things that you don't know the answer to, but then you have to learn to trust your gut. That's really important. Okay, education is discovery. If you like travel, if you like, doing things that you've never done before or that you never had permission to do before. So, for example, let's say that the family is like anti-education or anti-arts or anti-whatever, or the abuser was like, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you dare. I'd say now is a really good time to dare. Why not? What the hell? So it's like if you've always wanted to go back to school, do it. You don't have to dive in, oh my God, over your head. I mean, you could take a couple of classes and feel it out and see if you like it or not. And again, I think, and that's kind of what I did when I was living in Oregon. It's like I took classes at the community college trying to figure out if I really wanted to go down this route of becoming a counselor. And I did. I loved it. And I still do. So, you take baby steps. You don't have to bite off the whole chunk at once. You can take little small steps and take one class and be like, okay, do I like this or not? So, and the other thing of it is too, it's like, what do you love to do creatively? What have you always wanted to do? I would love to go for a hot air balloon ride some year. So that's something that I am going to do because it's on my bucket list. So, things that you were always told, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you dare. Think about it. So it's time to think about the things that you've always wanted to do that you never had the permission to do. Start doing them. There are tons of classes. And of course, once this whole COVID thing is blown through, which will take probably about a year and a half, 2 years. But there are tons of classes online right now that you can take. Once the COVID thing is over, you can do classes through the Parks and Recreation Department of any city. So like any city, you just look up, the name of the city, Parks and Recreation, and there should be a bunch of classes. Right now, obviously not, but look online for stuff that you can do online. YouTube has been a godsend. Seriously, it's like my clients are like, oh my God, I need to meditate or I need to do this and I don't know where to go to get this information. Great, type in breathing, meditation, YouTube, there you go. Boom, and find those. So like John and I, we've been trapped at home, right? Well, I wouldn't say trapped. I'm actually really enjoying it. But we've been at home and we like to work out and everything. And obviously we can't go to the gym. We cannot go to the gym or anything. So we've been finding like kickboxing videos online. We've been finding the yoga with Adrian videos online. We've been doing things like that. Our trainer Jess has been putting stuff out in his group online for his people. So you can find stuff online. And there's also instructional videos for how to with crafts or how to with arts or how to with whatever. So now is the time to really allow yourself to explore. Who are you? What do you like? What do you want? What have you always wanted to do? What's your bucket list? What is something that your abusers have absolutely put the kibosh on and said, no, 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 no. I say it's time to go do it. Give them the big middle finger. Why not? What the hell? All right. Exploring faith or spirituality. I think that's great. I think it's wonderful. Now is the time. You're out of the abusive relationship. In some cases, they've used religion, the communal narcissists like the Jim Joneses and the David Koreshes and, nut jobs like that. What was the one? The Hale Bop comment dude, I can't think of his name, but anyway, people like that have used spirituality and religion to control and to manipulate and fear, obligation, and guilt, right? Now it's the time to figure out, what are your beliefs? What makes you tick? What makes you happy? How do you connect to the universe? How do you connect to God? How do you connect to whatever? Explore it. You have a right to. It's okay. And then in some cases, if the abuser is a narcissist, yes, of course they're a narcissist. If they're Chris, brain gone. If they don't believe in anything at all, they will sometimes make fun of their target of abuse for having a religion, or vice versa. If they're religious nuts and if you don't believe, they will totally bag on you for that. So if you don't believe, that's fine. Explore what works for you, not what works for the abuser. Does that make sense? So whichever way the abuser went, if they were total atheists, that's the word I was looking for. If they're total atheists and they would never allow you to explore spirituality or religion or whatever, now's the time to explore. If they were total religious nuts and they, wouldn't allow you to be atheist, now's the time to look at being an atheist. You know what I'm saying? Do you see where I'm going with that? It's like, figure out who you are and what works for you. Okay. So there is that. So this, this is kind of a life-changing event, this whole COVID thing. And sometimes those life-changing events really help propel us into the next level of being. So with this whole stuck at home thing, what have you realized that you really want? What have you realized that you really want to do? What would you like to do when we get out of the quarantine and it is safe to congregate? Right now, I don't think it is. Even though Arizona is opening up, I'm not going to stop seeing people via video until I am convinced that it's safe. Why? Because I have asthma and John has asthma and I don't want to die. So, but if people want to go out, okay, that's fine. But, what do you want to do when you are able to go back out again? What are the things that you have been thinking about or jonesing about, or really, gosh, I'd really like to start doing jogging, or gosh, I'd really like to start, painting, or gosh, I'd really like to start writing, or I'd like to go back to school, or I'd like to, use this whole event as a way to focus in on you. How can you find yourself again? What have you been missing? What have you really been missing? Like what do you miss in your life? What do you wish you could be doing? And then start thinking about how to do that. That's really important. Okay. Inventory of joy. When we get caught up in the seeking, complexity overshadows simplicity. The answers are in us and all around us. We can list the tangible and the intangible things that bring us joy. And then it is for us to decide how we will stay connected to those things. So that's a great way to do it. It's like, what did you used to love to do when you were a little kid? Most little kids love to play. Most little kids love to jump around and play and explore and have fun and fly kites and do finger painting and clay and, things like that. What did you used to like to do? What have you not done in years? Time to start looking at that. Meditation, mindfulness, openness. So obviously meditating can be really good. And sometimes in the middle of a meditation, you'll have this total epiphany where it's like, holy crap, I need to be doing this. This is why meditation is good, because it clears out all the crap and it makes room for what you really need to be thinking about, if that makes any sort of sense. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay. Trying and failing. So here's the thing. Abusers never let us fail. It's not okay. They tell us point blank, it's not okay. Why? Because everybody has to be perfect around them, which is stupid. Because how do babies learn how to walk? They fall often, and so you give them the courage to learn. You give them the courage to fail. You give them, it's okay. You pick yourself back up, dust your butt off, and you keep going, But narcissists don't do that. They make them wrong. How dare you? You're so stupid. You did this, you did that, you weren't perfect. So I think one of the ways to start finding ourselves is to give ourselves permission to live in good enough. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. It really, truly does not have to be perfect. Good enough. Start allowing yourself to live in good enough. And we get stuck in this analysis paralysis. And I started talking about this last week. When we have an abuser that if we make a wrong move, they'll punish us. They'll make us wrong. They'll make fun of us. They'll do whatever. And so we get stuck in that analysis paralysis. Well, if I do this, then this is going to happen. And if I do that, then that's going to happen. And what if it's not good enough? And what if, right? So then we just don't make a choice at all, which then causes problems because not making a choice at all is in fact a choice in and of itself. And that has consequences. So it's really important to think about the times that you've been stuck, right? Like not making a choice. And by not making a choice, it ended up horrible, and why was that? What was the reasoning for not making a choice? Oh, it's because my abuser used to make me wrong if I made the wrong choice and da-da-da-da-da. So that's why it's really important to start analyzing where does this paralysis come from? Wait a minute. I have the right to fuck up. I do. I have the right to make a wrong choice. I have the right to fail, and I have the right to fix it when I do. And that's how I learn. That's how little kids learn. Little kids learn by failing. That's how we all learn. It's like, oops, this didn't work. Okay, let's try something else, right? But abusers don't ever do that. Abusers are like, you have to be perfect the first time, and you should know that. They love to should all over us. They really did. You should. And it's like, I'm sitting here listening to them. Like sometimes when I go out grocery shopping and I hear these narcissistic parents shooting all over their kid, and I'm like, they're 3. They don't have the social constructs and they don't have the cognitive ability. So how the fuck are they supposed to know this until you teach it to them, you fucking asshole? Good thing I'm wearing a mask. I can mouth all that and they don't know that I'm saying it. So anyway, the point being is that kids learn. They need to learn. They need to do. That's and us. We need to learn. We need to do. So whatever it is you've been thinking about that you really wanted to do that your abuser would not let you do, I encourage you, write it down, figure out a way to do it. Getting lost in the benefits of finding yourself. This is another article that I had off of Psychology Today. Getting lost is scary to us because when we come out of the abuse, we're kind of like, oh my God, I have lost myself and I've lost all this time. And it is a grieving process, guys, but you cannot make yourself wrong. Because if you'd known going into it that this person was abusive, you wouldn't have gone into it, but you didn't know. So you couldn't know until you knew, and now you know, and now you can do different. Does that make sense? So the thing of it is we tend to beat ourselves up for things that we didn't know. We couldn't have known. Honest to God, if everybody on the face of the planet was educated to how an abuser works, nobody would be in an abusive relationship, which would be fabulous. I would love that. So, but we don't. It's like, we're groomed by the family of origin, right? We never fix that wound. And then we look outside of ourselves trying to find that same kind of similar thing so that we fix this when in reality it's a shit sandwich. So yeah, it's really important to be gentle with you. Forgive yourself. You didn't know better. Now you do. Now you can do better. And a great couple of books for that is Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. You know, it's kind of like it is what it is, and this is what happened, and you just accept it, and you love yourself, and you forgive yourself, and you move on. Another great book is Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping. Love that book. If you're hanging on to resentment and anger, you know, it's kind of like you're keeping the abuser alive and in your head and living there rent free. Let the motherfucker go. You don't need that. You got too much stuff to do. You've got too much living to do. You do. And these fuckers don't need to come along with it. No. So you let them go. Fuck you. Yeah, let them go. You've got more important things to do, which is finding you. Who are you? What do you want? What do you need? That's the beauty of it. And this is the thing. We look at this as kind of a scary thing. And it is in a way, because, you know, freedom can be amazingly frightening. But it's beautiful and it's exciting, and you get to find you. You get to find the things that give you joy. You get to find what lights your eyes up. You know, what makes you excited? What makes you happy? What gives you joy? That's the beauty of it, is that this is a whole new, wow, I get to reparent myself. I get to love myself, and I get to figure out what it is I like. Wow, how exciting. It's kind of like going to Disneyland, but in your brain. It's awesome. So that's the way I want you to start rephrasing it. Or reframing it. Because what we do is we get stuck in this, oh my God, it's scary. Oh my God, it's scary. Oh my God, it's scary. You got to go, yeah, okay, it's scary, but it's an adventure. This is fabulous. Okay. Do you see where I'm going with that? So, okay, there is that. Our brains are attracted to problem solving. So that's why I'm saying, what do you want? How are you going to get there? You know, it's like, draw yourself a map. What do you want, but how are you going to get there? So that's really important. Okay. There is that. How to be yourself in 5 simple steps. Also on Psychology Today. I love Psychology Today. It is awesome. All right. How are we doing on time? Okay. I got 4 more minutes, then I'm going to start taking questions. Okay. So what I was talking about, accept yourself. Accept yourself. So a lot of us suffer from the time invested fallacy. Okay, so we go, but I spent all these years with this family, or I spent all these years with these siblings, or I spent all these years with this abuser or this romantic partner or this boss or this job or whatever. And we're like, but I can't give up. I can't stop. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Because here's the deal. I want you to think of this like a financial investment. If these guys were stocks, okay, and you were dumping money into them and it stopped returning, which I'm pretty sure it has, would you keep dumping money into it? No, money and time. There you go. Why would you keep dumping time, your precious, valuable time, into these people who are dedicated to misunderstanding you, who are dedicated to not seeing you for who you are, and who are dedicated on abusing you? Don't do it. You're worth more than that. Self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi, or You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. People who love themselves do not put up with crap, period. So accepting yourself and loving yourself and being kind to yourself. Number 2, identify negative self-talk. How many times have I talked about that? Whose voice is that? I love it when my clients go, it's mine. And I'm like, no, it's not. Kids do not pop out of the womb going, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. They don't. They don't pop out of the womb beating the living crap out of themselves. Somebody has to teach them that. So you got to identify that negative voice. Who is that inner critic? Whose voice is that? Who taught you that it wasn't okay for you to know yourself? Oh, and that was a question that I got today too. Why is it that the abusers only want you to be around other abusers or flying monkeys? Well, it's because if you're with somebody who's healthy and you start comparing, right? Apples, oranges. Oh, okay, here's the healthy person. Here's the unhealthy person. Oh, I don't think I like the unhealthy person. Do you see where I'm going with that? They don't want you to figure out that they're unhealthy. They don't want you to figure out that they are disordered. They don't want you to be healthy. They don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to leave because they want to have a whipping post and you're it. So identify negative self-talk. Whose voice is that? And tell it to shut up. You know, it's like, thank you for your input. Shut the fuck up. Why? Because I say so. You say so. I say so. I am the boss of this voice. This voice is not the boss of me. I am good enough. So, or whatever negative thing it said, you do the polar opposite. I am good enough. Why? Because I say so. Fuck off. Do you see where I'm going with that? So identify the negative self-talk. Who does it come from? Where did that belief system come from? Who told you you couldn't do it? Who was negative? Who was like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And then it turns out you can. Wow, must have been threatening to them. Hello. Do you see where I'm going with that? All right, celebrate your strengths. So the best therapy is strength-based. What are your strengths? What is awesome about you? What is great about you? What do you know is your superpower? So for a lot of us, it's that we're very, very, very compassionate, which is also our kryptonite. So we've got to be very careful. So it's like, but identifying what our strengths are. What are our strengths? You know, intelligence, wittiness, funniness, kindness, love animals. You know, what are your strengths? What is good about you? What is good about you? And write it down. Why? Because our abusers are never going to tell us what's good about us. And we're so used to mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Damn it, I'm running out of time. Let me just finish this and I'm going to get to the questions. So you celebrate your strengths. You stop allowing the inner critic to tell you who you are. You stop allowing the abuser to tell you who you are. And you start celebrating who you are. What is great about you? Like physically, mentally, emotionally, ecumenically. What is wonderful about you? What do you like? What do you like about you? What do you know to be true about you? And this is where talking to trusted family and friends comes in handy. If you've forgotten, have them help remember for you. So there that is. Express yourself. Get used to saying no. Get used to drawing boundaries. Get used to speaking out and speaking out. Get used to it. You have a right. You have a right to say no. You have a right to have boundaries. You have a right to not put up with abuse. You have, all of that. So get used to expressing yourself. Showing vulnerability. Now, as survivors of abuse, the one thing that I hear, and especially from men, and it just breaks my heart when I hear this, is that, oh my God, it's not safe for me to cry because big boys don't cry. Or, you're weak if you cry, or I'll give you something to cry about. That was my dad's favorite line. Oh God. So being vulnerable is actually a strength. Being vulnerable is actually a strength. It's you're in touch with all of your emotions, not just the warrior, I'm going to kill emotion. You're in touch with all of your emotions. All of the emotions are good. It's what we do with them that makes them either helpful or hurtful. So be willing to get in touch with that softer side of you. And remember, anger is the bodyguard of sadness and hurt. So if you're angry, how did you get hurt? What are you sad about? That's what you got to start getting in touch with. So be willing to really express and experience all of the emotions. So sometimes what's good for people is to get an emotion chart and figure out, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And one of the funniest things that happened to me is I was working at the homeless shelter, and this ginormous man, very, very big man, very, very scary looking big man. I asked him, I said, well, how are you feeling today? And he looked at the emotion chart and he's like, I feel demure. And I just cracked up because this guy seriously up to that point could not identify an emotion. Seriously, anger was the only thing he could figure out. And then we talked about it. Okay, well, why are you feeling demure? And then he was like, I feel a little shy and I feel this and I feel that. I was like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Good for you. Keep using the emotion chart. So do you see where I'm going with that? All right. And then there is another article. This is the last one. And then I'm going to hit questions. How to build a strong sense of self. Differentiate yourself from your family. You are not doomed to be your family or your abuser. Okay? Not at all. So differentiate yourself from them. You are not them. You are you. But remember, abusers are like, they want everyone to think the same way. They want everyone to feel the same way. They want everyone to agree with them. They want, everyone has to basically be little mini-me's to them. So differentiate yourself. Who are you? Separate from your parent, separate from your abuser. Who are you really? Look to distinguish yourself. Allow yourself to become more aware of your surroundings. Before you make any decisions, especially life-altering decisions, you have to figure out what you want and how you want to spend your time. People who know themselves make decisions for themselves automatically, but it takes time to get there. So this is the whole point I'm trying to say, is that because we have not had practice doing that, we have to start practicing. What do I want? What do I need? How do I make this decision? How do I know this is really what I want? Do you see where I'm going? Listening to our gut. So people who love themselves, people who know themselves, it's an automatic decision because we automatically listen to our gut and it just is like, okay, it's one smooth action. So in the beginning, though, it's going to be a real like stop motion kind of thing. It's going to be like, oh, okay, here's a decision I have to make. Okay, gut, what do I think? Yes or no? Is this a good decision? Ah, yes, this is a good decision. Oh, okay, I'm going to make this decision and then draw boundaries. Do you see where I'm going with that? Connect with yourself. When developing a sense of self, it helps to stay in conversation with you, exploring new ways of who you want to be. This is where the whole mentorship comes in. This is the whole looking for role models, that whole thing. Stay in tune with you. Does this feel right? Does this not feel right? Listen to your gut again. Apply actions to your life. Don't just write things out. Do them. Things that you can take actions on. Take actions on. Very, very important. Okay, and if you're having trouble connecting with your true self, here's some questions to ask. What do I love unconditionally? There's a good question. Number 2, what is my number 1 accomplishment in life? Number 3, what do I enjoy doing when no one is watching? Number 4, if there was no such thing as fear and failure, what would my life look like? What would I do that I've been too afraid of failing or I've been too afraid to do? That's a great one. Okay, here's the $1 million question. If I had $100 million, what would I do? Who is my role model? Number 6. If I had $30,000 to donate to a cause, what cause would I donate to? That's a good one, because then that kind of shows you where your passions are. If I went to sleep tonight and a miracle occurred so that all my problems were gone and I was happy when I woke up, what would be the first thing I would see? What would my life look like? So these are really good questions, and I think that everyone needs to ask themselves that in an effort to find ourselves again. So it's going to take work, guys. It's not just going to be an overnight one and done. It's going to be like a series of working on self-esteem, boundaries, the disease to please, Harriet Breaker, things like that. Okay, now I'm going to take questions. All right, sorry about that. There was a lot to get through. Okay, so in finishing this all up, it's really important to explore who you are, and it's okay. Give yourself permission. Do the mirror work. Do the self-esteem work. Do the boundary work. Do the inner child work, so that if and when, more likely when than if, the inner child starts freaking out, you can comfort the inner child and let them know it's okay. It's okay for you to figure out who you are, and it's okay to go do the things that your abuser told you was not okay to do. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I'm going to hit questions. All right, my ex is an alcoholic, and I've heard through my aunt who saw him that he is not doing well. I don't want to be with him, but how do I get over the sadness and worry I feel for him? So here's the deal. It's not your problem. It's not your problem. It's not your problem. And my question is, why is your aunt telling you this? Is she a flying monkey? That's the question. What you need to let family members know is you don't need to know about your ex. You don't. What you can do to work through the sadness and the worry, because you cannot fix him, you did not break him. The only time anybody ever gets healthy is when they go, oh shit, there's a problem, right? So write a letter. The good, the bad, the ugly, the horrific, and at the very, very end, take your power back. I am unwilling to let you live in my head rent-free one more second. I'm really sorry you're not doing well. However, your choices in life have led you to this point, and you have an option. You could go to AA, you could go to inpatient, you could do something to make your life better, but instead you choose to be a victim and can die, basically. So I'm sorry, but good luck with that, and goodbye. And then you let your aunt and everybody else know, I do not want to know what is going on with my ex. I do not. And if they persist in telling you, that says to me they're flying monkeys. So be careful of that. All right. If we heal enough, can we see narcissistic friends who are just a little improper, superior gaslighting? Would that be resilience? Or we really shouldn't be exposed to any improper behavior? So here's the deal. Once you begin to heal, you don't want to be around them. You just don't. You have I have no tolerance. I have no tolerance. I have no time. I don't. So the question is, why do you want to be around them? If they're doing the whole superior gaslighting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what part of you is wanting to be around them? How old is that part of you? Is that the inner child? What have you not healed yet? What do you think you can accomplish by being around them? So that's the thing, is that when we start clearing out all of these narcissists from our lives, we get this fear. Oh my God, there's not going to be anybody else to take that place. That I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be alone. No, you're not. It's no different than cleaning out your closet and getting rid of clothes that no longer fit you. There are other people that will fit you way better. So you really need to ask yourself, why the hell would you want to be around them? People who love themselves, guys, let me just say this again. People who love themselves do not put up with gaslighting. Do not put up with acting superior. They don't put up with narcissists. They do not put up with abuse in any way, shape, or form. No, you should never be around them. And you need to ask yourself why you want to. So there that is. How to deal with feeling rushed all the time. I cannot focus on any task at hand because I feel like there's so much to do and not much time. So in speaking or listening to Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine in their lecture that I listened to this last week, Bessel van der Kolk was saying that the people who do not keep a calendar, who do not have, I'm doing this now, and I'm doing this now, and I'm doing this now, tend to be the ones who have the most mental health issues. Why is that? Well, because if we allow our brain to just run rampant and we've got issues going on, we will run out of time to do everything. So what you want to do is you seriously, and then we feel bad, and then we beat ourselves up, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then it's just keeps going this vicious cycle. So what you want to do is you want to write down a list, not just a list, but like from now to this, from 8 a.m. to this period, I'm doing this. From 9 a.m. to this, I'm doing this, and you write it down and you figure out what is the priority, what needs to be done now. Does that make sense? Oh my God, my allergies are driving me crazy. Holy crap. Sorry. So you want to figure out what is a priority, what needs to be important, what needs to be done, and you want to give it time. So you want to schedule it out. You definitely want to do time management, and nobody teaches that. I mean, think about it. It's like, did anybody ever teach us time management? No. And when we're dealing with abusers, especially, they're really great at rushing. Never enough time. And it's always like the next thing. And so we never learn to be like, okay, I need to do this, and I'm going to enjoy doing this while I'm doing this. And now that this is done, now I'm moving on to the next one. So with an abuser, they've taught us this impatience big time. Show me somebody that was raised by an abuser or around an abuser, and they've got this incredible sense of impatience. And it's because the abusers are constantly looking for the next big thing. When's the next argument? When's the next this? When's the next that? And it's never like, okay, enjoy. We're doing this now. And we're going to allow ourselves to do this now. And we're going to take time doing this. And then we're going to finish this, and we're going to move on to the next one. So it's a really good idea to plot out your day. I do. I absolutely do. I have my calendar and I have my list of what I'm going to do. And what do I do if I have free time? Like if I don't have a client, okay, well, I plot in what I'm going to be doing or I need to be doing, which is either meditating or maybe working on the next book or, whatever, or calling clients that I haven't talked to in a while. So I plot it out so that I've got a list of things to do. And then at the end of the day, I go, you know what? I did everything on my list. I'm good to go. This is fabulous. And I let it go. The problem with abusers is they never taught us, or they never allowed us to let things go. It's always like, well, you didn't get this done, and you didn't get this done, and you didn't get this. Do you see where I'm going with that? So you really want to start doing a list. You're doing from this time to this time, I'm doing this. From this time to this time, I'm doing that. And then you do as much as you can. And then if there's stuff left over, you put it on the next day. And the truth of the matter is there's plenty of time. But in our heads, we've decided there isn't. So that's, again, how you say it is how it's going to turn out. So it's really important. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Why are you telling yourself that? What's the payoff? What are you getting out of being rushed all the time? Does it take you out of the present moment? More than likely, yeah. So you want to make sure that you're staying in the present moment and that you are doing a good calendar, a good, what are you doing from this moment to the next? Okay, this is as much as I can do today, and I'm done, and we're moving it over to the next day. So there that is. All right. Advice for people who feel really awkward and uncomfortable when it's quiet. Okay. So we feel really awkward and uncomfortable when it's quiet because we're not used to it. We're used to chaos. We are. We're used to when's the next shoe going to drop? Remember, I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. When is the next shoe going to drop? When's the next catastrophe? Oh my God, what about this? What about that? What if, what if, what if, what if? Or if we're not dealing with that, we're dealing with the not good enough, not good enough, not good enough judgment, 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 right? So we feel really awkward and really uncomfortable when it's quiet because we're not used to it, which is why meditation is very important. And it's also important to get a handle on what is this thing saying to you all the time? Shut the fuck up. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye. Does that make sense? So it's really important to practice quiet. And be okay with it. It's hard. It is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It is hard. And in the beginning, you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't stand it. I need the radio on. I need the TV on. I need this on. I need that on. Da, 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 da. No, you need to get quiet with you. You need to get quiet with you and be okay with it. And notice, what are the thoughts? The reason we don't like the quiet is, what are the thoughts? What are we thinking? What are we feeling? This little guy up here should be an internal cheerleader, not an internal critic. This little guy should be like, oh my God, go you, you're fabulous, good job, keep going. Oops, you fucked up. Okay. Okay, did you make amends? Okay, good, you did. Okay, forgive yourself, move on. Okay, good job, keep going. Do you see where I'm going with that? But instead, our abusers have replaced the cheerleader with an internal critic. And it's like, it's nasty, it's mean, it's what if, then do this and do that. And it's mean. So you've got to be able to confront that voice and shut it the fuck up, number one. And when you get to that point, allow the silence. Allow the silence. It was so funny. When I was doing a meditation class last year, and in Terry Wheeler's class, it was awesome, and she was amazing. And it was this meditation, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, I can't meditate for that long. A 45-minute meditation. Holy crap!" 45 minutes went like that. It was amazing, and it was quiet. It was beautiful. I loved it. I just, yeah. And the more you do meditation, the more you get comfortable with it. But first, you have to identify why. Why is it awkward? Why is it uncomfortable? Is it what you're hearing? Is it what you're telling yourself? Is it the fear, right? Other shoe dropping. Wait, it's too quiet. What's going on? That kind of thing. So we have to retrain ourselves that quiet is okay. Freedom from chaos is okay. It's actually the healthy way to be. But remember, when we're involved in an abusive relationship, it's chaos 24/7. And so quiet does feel scary. So I want you to start getting used to the quiet, but you need to figure out why that is so threatening to you. What's the fear? What's the fear? What is the fear of the quiet? Why is it awkward? What's the thought? What is this thing saying? If it's anything less than I love you, it's okay to be quiet, then you tell it to shut the fuck up and replace it with a positive. Does that make sense? Okay, but you got to figure out why. You got to figure out the why first, and then do it a little bit at a time too. So like when I first started meditating, I did not just off the bat do 45 minutes. No, off the bat, I started with 2 minutes, and that felt like an eternity. And then I lengthened it to 5, and then I lengthened it to 10, and then I lengthened it to 15. You take it by baby steps, but you notice, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you telling yourself? What's going on? And that's how you start self-discovery, is like, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? Where did this come from? Who taught me this? What the hell? You see where I'm going? So yeah, so that's what I suggest. Okay, how do you focus on what you want when decorating your house and not the magazines and what people tell you how to decorate? Throw out the magazines, number one, and just go look at stuff and see what you like. What makes your little heart happy? There you go. Like, I love doing the thrifting stuff, going to Goodwill and things like that. And if I find something funky that I like, I buy it, or I like Victorian stuff. I like a lot of Victorian type looking things. So you figure out what it is your particular peccadillo, I guess, and just go for it. And it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't. What other people think of your decorations is none of your goddamn business, right? So, people are always going to give opinions. They are. And you can say, quite frankly, I don't need your opinion on this. I love this piece. Thank you. Drawing boundaries. It's drawing boundaries. And you don't go with the magazines. You go with what makes you happy. unless you like the magazines. I mean, if there's a picture in a magazine where you're like, whoa, I want that, then great, do that. But if you're like feeling pressured again to be like perfect, or it has to be perfect and people have to like it. No, they don't. This is all about you. You need to like it. That's it. Nobody else needs to like it. You need to like it. So drawing boundaries. It's all about boundaries. How long until we can rewire our brain into truly loving ourselves and be able to be assertive, alive, and driven? It takes daily practice, and it is up to the person. Like sometimes people like grab onto that self-esteem workbook and damn, they're off and running and they're doing it from day one, which is great. And other people, it's like they need to process it and it needs to kind of, really be worked through in their head, and then they finally get it and then they're off and running. It just depends on the person. It depends on the person. Some people are like, and go. And other people are like, and let me think about this. And that's okay. It depends on the person. It just depends on the person, but don't stop. That's the thing. You're not gonna move forward if you stop doing it. So yeah, absolutely. Can you give some tips on finding or choosing the right career path as an empath? Well, you sit down and you figure out, what do you enjoy? What do you like? Do you like working with animals? Do you like working with people? Do you like working with the elderly? Do you like working with the youngsters? Do you like, what group do you enjoy being with? That's the thing to start. It's like, where am I thinking of going? What do I enjoy? And I would say it would be good to do a little bit of volunteering to see if you like it. So for example, when I was thinking about becoming a counselor, I decided to go volunteer at the Dougie Center in Portland, Oregon, which is a children's grief clinic, because I wanted to make sure that I was cut out for this kind of work. And I was, and I loved it. And so you volunteer, that often gives you a really good idea of what age range you like working with, and what, if it's animals, if it's people, if it's, and you can look at things, what makes you excited? What makes you interested? What kind of goes, ooh, that sounds like an interesting career. I'd like to look into that. So allow yourself to explore. It's all about just exploring. What do you want to do? And you just kind of suit it to your strengths. So here's your strength. You're an empath. You're empathic. You feel okay. Do you want to work with humans? Do you want to work with animals? Do you want to work with the elderly? Do you want to work with the very young? Do you want to work with teens? Do you want to work with autism? Do you want to work with, what do you want to work with? So you just kind of figure out what your passion is and where you want to start. Okay, could you give some, okay, did that one. I'm still in this forced lockdown with 2 narcissists. Any advice? Which tool is the most useful in my case? Well, I don't know what the situation is. It kind of depends on what they're doing and how they are abusing you. If you can avoid and not, get into fights with them, that's what I would do. Gray rocking is a really good tool. But sometimes gray rocking backfires because the narcs are looking for narcissistic supply. So you have to be careful, and you engage as much as you have to, and then you try to avoid as much as you can. So that's basically, and like I said, I don't know what the situation is, so I don't know how to specifically give you advice other than, you don't rise to the bait. Don't give them any reason to come after you if you can. Try to avoid as much as possible, and just keep safe. That's really, and if it gets bad, there is the domestic abuse hotline. John, can you put the domestic abuse hotline up there? And, there's other things that you can do. And I also don't know how old you are, so I'm not sure what advice to give you. So, but just be careful. How do I get around this being triggered by a narcissistic brother of my boyfriend? Just hearing some things he said about women on a car phone conversation with my boyfriend triggers me. Whew, how do I get around being triggered by a narcissistic brother of my boyfriend? Just hearing some of the things he said about women on a car phone conversation with my boyfriend triggers me. Well, you're probably always going to be triggered by this guy. And you might want to talk with your boyfriend about this too. It's kind of like, wow, I'm really not comfortable with, the way he talks about women or this, that, and the other thing. And, see where he's at with that. If he's perfectly okay with it, this guy may not be the guy for you. But what you have to realize is, okay, this person is, sounds to me kind of misogynistic. So you just kind of got to realize, okay, I can't change him. It's not going to do any good to get into a pissing match with a skunk. So you kind of have to work on what your triggers are and why. And I would have the conversation with your boyfriend. It's like, this really made me uncomfortable. How do you feel about it? And see where he's at with that. And then that will tell you a lot as to whether or not this is a good relationship or not. Okay. Dissociation versus meditation. Whenever I try to meditate, I totally zone out and lost time. How to meditate without dissociation? Oh, that's a good question. So maybe what you can do is set a timer. And also, why are you dissociating? So I know, so for some people, like when they try to meditate and they're laying down and they're doing it, they fall asleep, which is not dissociating, that's falling asleep. But you could try setting a timer. And you could try figuring out why you're dissociating. Are you truly dissociating? Are you checking out? Or are you meditating? So set a timer. Set a timer and try to write down what you were thinking, what you were feeling when you realized you left, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for a lot of us, meditation is zoning out, totally, and losing track of time and just, stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. Set a timer and let's see what's going on. Write it down. I think that would be really good. Okay, I just started counseling and I info dump everything at once. Why? And is that okay? Or should I pick one or two things to focus on? Well, it's okay as long as you're not getting overwhelmed. I think that's the thing that you want to watch out for. Sometimes when we start counseling and we start working on ourselves, we're so hungry for, I want to fix it and I want to fix it now and I want this and I want, and we just try to do everything all at once. And really, it's a good idea to take your time. Take your time, focus. What do you want to work on? What's the most important thing that you're working on? Is it self-esteem? Is it boundaries? Is it, the trauma from your past? Really take your time. Don't just, because sometimes I have clients that are like, oh yeah, I read the CPTSD book in 1 week. And I'm like, no, you didn't. you might have read it, but you did not absorb it. So go back, read it again, do the work, come back, let's talk about it. So you want to take your time. You really do. Because we can absorb stuff, we can read stuff, but we don't absorb it. We don't get it. We don't really integrate that into our system. So you want to really, really integrate everything into your system. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. This is not a race. You're not in competition with anybody to get better faster. You're in a race with who you were yesterday. That's it. So take your time. My narc mother hates my really loud laugh. Oh dear. I am no contact with her now, but how do I react to people that don't like your characteristics or personality? You have nothing to do with them. I'm sorry. I'm super suspicious of people that don't like laughter. Really super suspicious. Absolutely. If they don't like your characteristics or personality, they're not your tribe. You're not going to convince them otherwise. They've already decided they are judge, jury, and executioner. Why be around them? Yeah, you don't need to. You absolutely do not need to be around them. Okay, I think we got one more question. Let's see, or maybe two. Question, how do you deal with someone who constantly needs to put you down to feel superior? You don't be around them. They are a narcissist. Look, guys, read Object of My Affection is in My Reflection, Coping with a Narcissist by Raquel Lerner. Read You Can Lead a Horse to Water, but You Can't Make Him Cha-Cha by me. Read this book, Healing the Inner Child by Shahida Arabi, Healing the Adult Children of Narcissists by Shahida Arabi. People who have to put other people down constantly to feel superior are incredibly insecure, and they are disordered because normal people do not do that. Normal people do not do that. You don't need to. There is no need to put somebody down to feel superior. You are who you are, and you have your strengths and your weaknesses, and they have their strengths and your weaknesses. It's not a fucking competition. So if you're dealing with somebody like that and you have to work with them, I would avoid them as much as you possibly can. If it's family or friends, avoid them as much as you possibly can. Let it die by attrition if it's a friendship, You are under no obligation to be around anyone who acts like a narcissist because they probably are a narcissist. So no, you don't have to deal with them. Don't be around them. Don't be around them. Value yourself more. Work on self-esteem. Work on Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. Get the self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. People who love themselves don't put up with any of that shit. Do not. All right, guys. That's it. I'm good for today. So Susanna Quintana is your girl. If you are outside of Arizona, SusannaQuintana.com. She is the one you want to get to. Also, she has her book out, You're Still That Girl, which is an awesome book. If you're going through divorce, Splitting, Randy Krieger. Really good book. All right. So next week, I think I want to talk about existential grief. So there's a lot of existential grief going on, especially back east with everyone dying in New York, which is horrible, and not being able to attend funerals and things like that. But also there's the existential grief of grieving the childhood that we should have had, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and also the existential grief of grieving the loss of somebody who's still alive. So I want to talk about all of that existential grief next week. All right, kids, be good. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Don't congregate. Stay 6 feet away. I know that Arizona is opening up. I think it's a mistake. So please be careful. Please continue to practice good social distancing. Wash your hands. Be safe. I don't want to lose any of you. And have a really good week. And I am going to answer questions that I didn't get to in the middle of the week. And I also want to do more on the pink elephant and internal talk, thought stopping, because a lot of people are having questions about thought stopping. So in the middle of the week one, I'm going to be answering that question. So there that is. All right, kids, love you. Be good. Talk to you later. Bye.